Welcome to Host Ghost Stories. I'm your host, LD Patty Loma. Tonight we have a story from Reddit. Got permission. I'm going to read this. This is kind of spooky. This is the podcast where you decide if this story is true or false. We get a lot of stories from different substances. We have an email full of stories. We have some from books and friends and family. But you get to decide, is this true or false? I'm not on camera today. My camera's not working. If you can figure that out, please let me know. So, this story, I'm going to go ahead and get started on this read. I have had only one non-psychologically induced, in parentheses, experience. This may not be that scary to others reading this, but it changed my whole worldview. It was back in 2017, in my senior year in college. I went to a small private university in Walla Walla, Washington. My buddy and I were at a house party and had been drinking earlier on that evening. And much later in the night, after everyone else had either left or students living in the house had retired to the rooms, I ended up looking up with a girl right there in the middle of the hardwood floor. Haha. As all the lights had been turned off, and I guess we deemed it not too risky being seen. Haha. Not sure what the ha-has are about, but maybe he was trying to keep it light, Anyways, reason I mention this or her is because she experienced what I'm about to say as well, and therefore a second party witness to what happened to us. The alcohol had been well worn off at this point in the night, and neither one of us had smoked any weed or taken any psychoactive substances either. So they definitely were not drugged. They were completely sober, it sounds like. So afterward, we were both just lying there next to one another on our backs on a makeshift bed on the floor in the living room, which in reality was just a single thinnish blanket we'd taken off the adjacent couch. And then something slithered, quote, underneath both of our backs, forcibly enough that it raised both of our torsos up off the hardwood floor a few inches. It was very brief, probably only 2 to 3 seconds or whatever it was. Felt appropriately the circumferences of an adult male arms. We both sat upright and faced one another, completely saucer-eyed in stunned silence, as neither of us deemed to be able to make a sound in a few seconds to follow. Finally, I managed to squeak out a, "What the actual was that? Did you feel that?" To which she simply nodded her head up and down significantly the most, as she most certainly did as well. We both shot up to our feet and I turned my phone's flashlight on, shining it around on the floor where we'd previously been laying down on our backs. Only a thin blanket was there. She hurried over to the living room lights to turn them on, and I reached down, pulling the blanket away to check and see if maybe something was underneath. Nope. Still just a flat hardwood floor. Nothing. There weren't even any other pillows or furniture or any other objects in the immediately vicinity of where we had been lying. We both began frantically and honestly rather desperately attempt to try and explain it away with logically. We didn't even know where to begin. She mentioned something about maybe having some sort of localized mini earthquake. Ha ha ha. And me being a so-called quickly informed her that unfortunately that most and definitely was not what was occurred. To which she agreed. We were so scared and shook up that both of us wanted to get physically far away from that spot on the floor as we could. But unfortunately, the buddy that I'd come to the party with earlier in the evening was our ride, and apparently he decided to drive back to our dorm, subsequently leaving us essentially destined to spend the night in the now apparently haunted house. This was the night at Eastern Washington State in February, so it was quite cold outside. So we moved to a different room in the house and had another couch and sat there clutching one another until the sun came up hours later, and I was finally able to get a hold of my friends to quickly come pick us up, or to come pick us up. Though the experience was brief and nothing else happened the rest of the night, I still to this day continue to struggle with just what happened during those 2 to 3 seconds. I have always been and continue to be a massive skeptic of the need to see it to believe it variety, or feel in my case, and thus find myself naturally reluctant to simply slap the term paranormal on this experience. But it was not normal. 8 years have gone by now and I still do not know what to think. She and I never dated or anything, but it was more or less one night hookup. Why? I had to throw that in there. But a few years ago, she sent me a Snapchat asking if I'd hopefully figured out what happened or what it was, because she still hadn't. Before this experience, I had never in a million years wouldn't have admitted to anyone, nor especially to myself, that I'd be crazy of those type of people who saw/felt or experienced a ghost of anything paranormal. Because, of course, it's only crazy or unhinged people make those claims. Well, I stand corrected. I hope you enjoyed this story. We're going to call this the slithering. What do you think? Do you think this is true or false? Or more accurately, like, what do you think it was? I believe he's telling the truth. I'm just going to say it out there. I think the road was a very vulnerable place and wrote this. And so, what do you think it was? My mind was like, maybe it was a big boa constrictor ghost. I have no idea. Tell us what you think. I'm going to put this one 18 and up because it seems more 18 and up. But I hope y'all enjoy this story. Y'all have a good night. Stay spooky.